By the will of our Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, I, the unworthy and sinful servant of God, will try, despite my poor mind, to write the life of Holy Prince Alexander, son of Yaroslav and grandson of Veselvod. I am glad to tell about his holy, noble, and glory... Oh, that's right. Sorry. I, the so designated, am glad to tell of Prince Alexander, his serviceful life, in the same way as I have heard it from my father and other older people, as well as about the events I have seen myself while I lived in his household and witnessed his life. For, as King Solomon said... Right. By the will of material chance, great comrade Alexander was born unto the motherland from the charitable, people-loving, and meek great Prince Yaroslav, and his mother was Theodosia. For the glory of Russia's vast and rich lands, which by their very greatness beckon an invader, Prince Comrade Alexander, anyway, vied against and defeated the encroaching Swedes, and then the pugnacious Livonians, and finally, as I shall explicate at some length now, the Teutonic Knights, who came from the Knighted West to be differently religious, by which I, of course, mean to be religious at all, yes. To be religious at all in Russia, where religion really wasn't even a big deal then. He wasn't into that thing. Religion being that thing. I just call it that thing because nobody gave a shit about Christianity there. Comrade Alexander absolutely was not canonized as a saint of the Eastern Orthodox Church after all of the stuff. I said wasn't. Today on Hinge Problems. Okay. It's Alexander Nevsky.
Totally scarring war movies.
Hi, this is Hinge Problems. That's right, we're a podcast where we podcast for one day and then brood for two. I'm Rudy.
And I'm Chris.
I'm Tigress.
I'm Shrug, and there has never been a god. There is only I don't remember. I just don't want to go to a gulag.
Well, you better remembering soon, otherwise you'll go there. Comrade! Oh God, every joke we're going to make about the Soviet Union means that, like, we're going to have to turn in our dirtbag leftist cards at the dirtbag leftist approval academy. I don't know.
Hey! America sucks, but so did Stalin. Hot take.
Genocides are bad!
Guess what movie Stalin thought was too anti-German until Germany decided, never mind that
Hey!
treaty, we're going to be in war. It's Alexander Nevsky. Sergei Eisenstein's classic work of shameless propaganda about protecting the motherland from Hitler's.
Now, we have not watched Battleship Potemkin yet for this cast, but I'm really glad what happened in 15 years, RE filmmaking, between that film and this film.
People talk with their voices.
Yeah.
You still have to read what they say if you don't speak Russian, but
you know, hearing the intoned voices was nice. It's like watching in one of my Japanese animes, except it's not an anime and it's from Russia.
I will say I'm very confused by the OSHA standards of this film. It seems like they put children in complete danger, but they were very careful around horses.
Well, those are horses are expensive, Rudy.
Children you drop off probably past a fire onto a trampoline. Maybe their mother's down there, like holding out their arms for the naked child that you just dropped 5 feet.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that, huh? Just really.
Maybe they get
Let's go.
like 5 extra rubles for danger pay.
Maybe not.
Stunt child.
I know a 1-year-old. I'm pretty sure a 1-year-old would not be okay after a 5-foot drop. You're like, okay, they're gonna do something, and then like oh wow, they really. I thought they were gonna switch to switch to a mannequin. No, that's an actual human baby. It's dropped off.
They dropped 2 human babies in this movie.
When our best friend Vasily drags a dude off of a horse after he crawls between its legs. Fake man, fake horse. When they drop a child, a naked child, and then a clothed child. Maybe it's the same kid twice. I don't know. But
They looked a little different to me.
2 children, you got to have the real thing. So the tears are real.
Real kids only. This is authentic filmmaking we have here.
Only Clint Eastwood had watched this movie before he made American Sniper.
Yeah, but you see, they can't wait and we can.
I do think Eastwood would have watched a movie that was this communist.
It is very heavy-handed, but I was like, oh, this is a propaganda film when it had the full propaganda of let's just turn to the camera in the last 3 minutes and talk directly to the audience.
Hey, wouldn't it suck if Germans were in your neighborhood fucking shit up? Wouldn't you want to join the glorious people's fight against it?
If you come here, we'll fucking kill you.
Yeah.
The files will be locked for 40 years. It's up to you to find the real story.
That would have actually
come to
been amazing.
my house. I'll fucking kill you.
As far as like propaganda movies go, this might be like the most accurate to what actually happened of any propaganda movie I've ever seen. Yeah, the Germans did get fucking fucked up by the ice when they went to fucking Russia.
I mean, I thought history had taught a lesson.
If there's one lesson history has taught us over and over again, it's do not fight a land war in Russia in winter. This seems like a pretty basic principle if you give it 10 seconds of thought, but it's really remarkable how many countries have forgotten this lesson that we on the global stage have learned over and over again.
Look, I know it's going to bite me in the ass in 10 years, but I promise I will never fight a land war in Russia in the winter.
10 years later in the year 2031.
God damn it, Rudy. You made a promise to all of us, and look at us here.
Rudy, what did you do to us?
God damn it. I think
told us this wasn't going to happen.
I think it might be time to cancel Rudy.
On Hyper Twitter, I don't know if you did his old podcast, but he definitely said he'd never
do this.
God damn it, we're having this. The 500th war to keep Russia from getting a warm water port is happening right now. And you
can't believe they've conscripted all the podcasters.
I didn't even support this war. I'm fucking 41 and I got drafted.
You'll never believe the one thing this podcaster won't do.
Drag 2 fat diabetics to war in Russia when they're like 50 and 48.
Drag a couple of AARP approaching fat diabetics and Tigris to Russia.
There's no insulin in this rifle, Rudy.
Oh, I got the insulin. You get the pens, Shrug. It's fine. Okay. Yeah, we gotta share it between us. That's how it works. Come on.
Look, just because I'm a grizzled veteran of the turf wars at this point doesn't mean it was okay to pull me into your bullshit, Rudy.
If the man in front of you dies, take his insulin.
Oh my god. Anyway, so this sure was a war movie from 1938, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was really looking at how much the image of it was of like, this is the invaders are coming, right? This is the the outside force is coming. After we beat those devilish Swedes, which I was like, this is maybe we've not done enough research, but I want to throw this question out here. So if you have the answer, please send $50 to hingeproblems@gmail.com, which Tigers will not receive any funds. But the idea of the Swedish and the Germans in 13th century
There was a Russo-Swedish War in the late 1700s, according to Wikipedia.
And there was like Novgorod. There was a Novgorod Swedish conflict of which the mentioned battle is part of. I actually did I finished because it was very short. A tale of the life and courage of the pious and great Prince Alexander Nevsky, which is a Vita, or the biographical section of a hagiography. According to the translator of this particular compilation I have, he was the first of the Eastern Orthodox Russian saint princes who, prior to Alexander Nevsky, all of the canonizations in the Eastern Orthodox Church were like what you expect. They were martyrs, or they were extremely pious monks that had visions of the Virgin Mary spraying their milk everywhere or something. Like that one guy from like Poland or whatever his name, I can't remember. Basically, his fame as like a folk hero and a defender of a somewhat nebulous but sort of slowly metastasizing idea of Russia as a unified place, which had been put on its back feet by the sort of kind of accidental invasion of the Golden Horde initially. They just kind of got lost on the way back from somewhere else and went, hey, there's people who want to fight us. So they did, and then they left it. And they came back later and took a bunch of Russia. And a big part of this Vita, which was apparently written by somebody in his retinue, and then somebody rewrote and added a bunch of stuff to it to make it more holy seeming a couple of centuries later. A big part is a famous battle with the Swedes.
Oh.
Yeah. And there's a detail from that famous battle with the Swedes that is reused in this movie's take on the battle on the ice with the Germans, namely the tent getting hacked down.
Was he called upon again for the battle with the Germans after gaining glory from the Battle of the Swedes? Like, it's like if we're gonna get attacked, we have to go get this guy.
It seems to have just sort of been his thing. Like in the movie, it is, you just see him hanging out fishing, not wanting to go hang out with the Golden Horde because, I'm committed to the soil that I live on, the motherland. We have a saying here: we don't ever leave our. What is it? It is better to die than to leave your homeland, he says, in response to an invitation to be a great warlord in the Golden Horde. And because they
wouldn't know anything about that.
The next year, after Alexander returned with victory, there came once more the adversary from the western country, who built a fortress on Alexander's land. The Vita writer basically says, adversary from west, adversary from south, adversary from east, and then people had to parse it later. But in this case, they thought the Livonian Order of German Knights was probably the one. So they went off and they raised the fort. And then Alexander started a campaign immediately. The third year after his victory over the king, there's a footnote. Let's not bother. During the winter, Alexander campaigned with a big army in the German country in order to show them that they should not brag, saying, let us go and conquer the nation of the Slavs. And long story short, it says, we liberated the city of, I don't know how to pronounce it, Pskov, from the conquerors. And he destroyed the country of the Germans and took an endless number of prisoners and cut to pieces others. So basically, the Livonians already held that part of what is now in Russia. And Alexander went over saying, that should probably be in Russia and I want to fight. So he picked the fight in revenge for them moving too far eastward. There was more of a yo-yoing. It wasn't just the simple, they showed up and everyone cried out for a hero who had a very nattily trimmed beard.
And for a little bit more of the historical context that you can give me, the idiot, what is the idea of Russia at this point?
Fuck if I know.
Okay.
It's
Thank
like
you.
I know there's like an ethnic people called the Rus, but I don't have a very good handle on what that really means. And I would rather just admit that than try to wallpaper over my own deficiencies.
Yeah,
Um,
and obviously this film is a propaganda film, so I think we're supposed to think of the Russians in this film as the Russians.
Yeah. There's a sense of like we are roughly unified ethnically. I read it as analogous to like Greek city-states in the classical period. Like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, we're all Greeks, but you know, I'm in Sparta and you're in Athens and you're a fucking asshole. No, you're a fucking asshole. Like, think global, act local. Sort of. When it comes to who you're gonna stab and for what.
Yeah, like it didn't seem like I'm now to totally Piskov and Novostrov. They're definitely rival football teams. They definitely go steal the town hog before the big game.
And then there's a bunch of references to Alexander's brothers. There's a bunch of like woven stuff in that I don't have the context to fully understand. And also there's a note about how, oh yeah, the person who rewrote it in like the 15th century obviously added a bunch of shit that sort of made it make less sense than it used to. But that's the version we have. And also it was obviously based on at least initially modeled on a Byzantine Vita. So at least some of our so-called history of, the actual life and deeds of Prince Alexander Nevsky is definitely, at the very least, twisted a bit, a little bit jokerfied. This joke can't work, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
And I only know the Catholic rules of saintdom. I'm sorry to ask you all these questions. These are serious questions I had. But are Orthodoxy sainthood rules the same? Like, gotta have done three big M's. Gotta have 3 M's on the board.
I'm not totally clear. Something that I think I forgot to say entirely earlier. He was basically canonized because he was a national, such as it was, hero. He's not a great and pious dude because of the way that he served God. He wasn't a holy person. He did holy acts because they were in defense of a holy land. That is Russia. That is a seat of the Eastern Orthodox Church.
So it's a pretty easy step to take that, to turn that into modern Soviet patriotism, isn't it? If it's just protecting the land, you can just chop off that nasty religion.
Yeah. And he did the thing that it says he did the thing that a lot of like noble or rich folks did at the time, which was, well, I'm almost dead anyway, so I'm going to become an ascetic for the last 2 weeks of my life and take orders. And it throws in some stuff like, when his hand went to there's some paper that you're supposed to touch to someone's hand after they died, and his hand moved and touched it, and well, there's a miracle for you. So there's still miracles.
Yeah, but also I just looked this up because I wasn't sure about it either. Apparently, the Orthodox Church does not require verified miracles for sainthood. They don't require that. That doesn't mean they obviously they don't attest that this miracle. Alexander had these miracles, but it's not like Catholicism, which requires a certain amount of actual miracles can be attributed to this person, kind of thing. So
just
there you go.
Sufficient that he was a cool dude that killed the right people.
Killed them Germans, yo.
Like, so much of the film really felt like staring into a different culture, and like I felt completely out of my depth on how to read this from a critical and intellectual standpoint, outside of like gut instinct, because I was like, that feels like a cultural reference I don't understand. That feels like like that guy seems like a stereotype that I don't get. Are the two buddies supposed to be funny? I can't tell. I can't tell if that's jokes or good humor or what's going on there.
Like the little like spinny tassel and his friend.
Spinny Tassel and his friend.
There's
What-
a guy.
what-
Yeah, the two dudes
Oh.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Vasily and
introduced. He's
Gavrila.
got. I guess not.
Oh
tassels,
yeah,
his
yeah,
belt.
yeah. Okay,
Like,
yeah.
he spent. There's like 3 minutes of this freaking movie where he is just spinning that belt, just spinning it, just.
I had
just
so
going
much
at
menace
spinning it.
about what was about to happen, and then it turns out they're just like two stupid 13-year-olds that like a girl.
Yeah, I was like, oh god, this is gonna be really creepy, and then it turns out that you're not interested in either of us. Well, that's a little unfortunate, but I can accept that.
I gave you a paper that says, "Do you like me? Yes or no?"
Yeah,
Like it
exactly.
felt very much on
Yeah,
that level.
that was exactly how it felt like. And then she's like, "Well, I mean, if both of you go to war, whoever got the most chivos gets my hand in marriage." And
Chivo.
whoever is bravest.
Yeah,
Whoever
yeah.
is bravest.
Yeah.
I was like, how does she measure that? How would she know? I mean,
Word
that's
gets
also like a
around.
great way to get people out of your hair. Your extremely long braided hair.
But she was not the girl that looks identical that was on the supply line.
I think
No.
they did. I mean, they have the
No.
same hair. I don't think they're the
I-
same people.
I
I was
was very-
confused initially, but
Yeah.
no, they're definitely not the same person because
There's like
At the
scenes where they're
end.
both in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in
Like-
the end, they both are there, and you can see that they're not the same person. But yeah, originally when the woman shows up in the battle lines, I'm like, wait, is that Olga? Like what?
well, there's the bit where there everyone's getting like suited up. There's the like
Yeah,
very very Soviet moment of as soon as Alexander gets there and he's like, we're gonna fucking kill everybody. Yeah, arm of the peasants. Yeah, and all of the like the spear maker and the axe dude and the fucking shield.
What we in the business call a mixed fruit pudding.
Yeah, everyone gets everything for free, all for one and one for all. But Russia, and then everyone's getting.
I made this mail myself. I wish
"Eh,
it was
it's short."
longer.
Yeah.
yeah, and,
And
it's
then-
Big old hole where my heart should be protected.
Oh well, what's the worst that could happen?
No one's ever been stabbed in the neck before.
You see the other woman that looks exactly like Olga, starting to get, and they have almost the exact same earrings getting suited up, and then they cut to Olga and the two boys going, where you gotta choose somebody, we're gonna go get stabbed. And she's like, no, let's see. Maybe one of you will die and it'll make the choice easy. And then they cut, and then like they cut to the other lady getting suited up again. And I'm like, I ran it back a couple times. I was
Yeah,
like, are they the same person? And there's just some weird editing here. What's going on?
I've been doing some very heavy dadding this past couple weeks, and so I was extremely tired, which is why all my questions are asked. But yes, I was like, what? Am I just tired, not
Yeah,
understanding
especially
what's
because
going
they
on?
like the thing about this movie is it does actually take a scene to introduce every other character besides the lady, like the
Well,
sword lady.
and
Like
the sword lady's confused even more because her name is Vasilisa, and
Yeah.
we have another character who's named Vasily. And so, like, every time they talked about her, I'm like, is that just another name for Vasily? It makes it even more confusing because she looks exactly like someone else and she has a name from someone else almost.
I kept wondering, like, yeah, there's the one girl who's like a warrior in this movie, the woman warfighter, and like there aren't any others, but she's also not doing the Mulan thing, right? That's not hidden, that's not secret information.
No, she's just strapped up. Like,
Yeah, it feels like a kind of token Soviet thing of, gender equality.
Which is why we have exactly what 3 women in this movie. The
Yeah.
mother-in-law.
It is token, like I said, but like it does seem to be part
I
of
can't
the
believe
Soviet
this,
messaging.
this Soviet propaganda movie from 1938 does not stand up to my gender standards.
Darn it.
how
Every
dare they?
copy.
I've come to expect so much from my 1938 Soviet propaganda films.
Well, from that angle, that so much of it is about the great like you're trying to tell a story, so it's about the great prince, but then it's like peasants come out of your holes.
Yeah,
Come out of your hobbit holes.
Well, they also did they thought about that a little bit too, because like the way they introduced the prince is he's fishing, right? Like he is a laborer. The first thing we know about him is that he labors as the peasants labor, which is obviously, bullshit from a historical standpoint. But yeah, like that's what they're doing. They're saying this guy is the people's man and he works with the people. And because that's the great, and he leads the amazing people who love him because he works with the peasants. And yeah, it's all very Soviet.
But also, he's definitely a prince, and those are definitely peasants that who you all wanted to see what the inside of their hobbit holes look like. I was very curious.
Yeah, I
about
was.
what's going on in those hobbit holes?
What's going on?
The living situation in there?
Probably cold. That would be my assumption. I think
living underground is good, pretty good for insulation generally.
See, in terms of the film, we don't see almost any interiors at all. Everything is held in open sky or in public spaces.
Yeah, you get to look at that land. On that note, I love, especially in like the battle scene, which is like almost half the movie. I love his use of like the height of his frame. It's an Academy ratio. It's 1938. Yeah. I love the overwhelming height of the skies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that ruled. Just seeing how big the sky was, and also how much of these shots were composite. That was confusing me. Or did they really like? Yeah, we have some guys on horsemen a mile away, and we're gonna show them going this whole way.
I'm pretty sure that's what they did.
But also, the first scene with the two bros and the girl, there's an extremely strange composite shot of the two bros are one shot, and then the crowd and the girl are a separate shot, and it looks very strange and something I'm going to use hopefully in a horror movie in 20 years, because it's a very weird effect.
The horror movie 10 years after we've all finally gotten back from the Russian front.
I'm going to do the worst possible thing anyone could do on a podcast.
Mouth sounds?
The second worst, and that's reading something off of Wikipedia, but the film climaxes in the half-hour battle of the ice, propelled by Prokyev's ominous, rousing triumph, blah, 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 blah. This climactic set piece was the first to be filmed, and since it was shot during a blazing hot summer on a location outside Moscow, cinematographer Edward Tichet, fuck if I know, had to take extraordinary steps to render a wintry landscape, including use of a filter to suggest winter light, painting all the trees light blue and dusting them with chalk, creating an artificial horizon out of sand, and constructing simulated ice sheets out of asphalt and melted glass, supported by floating pontoons that were deflated on cue, so that the ersatz ice sheets would shatter under the weight of the shot ignites, according to pre-cut patterns. So.
I also had questions like, did they have a 1938 stage tank, or did they? Because the water was very calm. Camera on a lake.
There's a bunch of like the pre-battle stuff that definitely looked like they were on a soundstage.
It never took me out of the movie outside of my brain going, that's a soundstage, that's outside, that's a soundstage. But I never felt removed from the film, to its credit.
This definitely feels like a movie that's limited by just like what could technically be done by these people, more than it feels like incompetence. Because I mean, obviously, because Eisenstein literally invented what we think of as editing today. The craftsmanship of every frame is really impressive to me. Like if you took almost any shot in this movie as a still, it would look cool. Which means when people are like having speeches and stuff, it looks about as good as it does a still. And when you have a battle, it's a whole bunch of people swinging balsa wood swords that if you couldn't see the motion and just saw a single shot, would look really neat.
Like when we are introduced to the Teutonic Knights, there's a long, like almost completely still montage of just these dudes in their long black tunics with the crosses on them, and their long kite shields with the crosses on them, and their kettle helmets, and they're all like these chess pieces scattered dramatically around in the ruins of this town that they've taken. And it's it's very dramatic. It's very stagey. It's not very naturalistic at all, but it conveys such a mood and a tone
Yeah.
that it was
Yeah.
amazing. Levering off of that, just because I want to make sure I mention this. This was co-directed by Dmitry Vasilyev, which I'm probably mispronouncing with my lazy American tongue, but Dmitry was there as co-director on this, the first Eisenstein movie in like a decade, to keep him from getting too abstract, which I think probably means you've already done 3 takes. I'm gonna rabbit punch you until you move on and stop doing setups. But
No, no.
even like with
I wanna
that,
let's try and throw
it's-
that child off a ledge again. I just wanna
yeah.
we get one more take of that.
Can we get a third kid? Does anyone have another kid?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give you
And,
One of you had a kid.
Intact
Come on.
craft services coupon. But even that, like the build up to the battle, it takes so long by modern standards, but it's still so arresting and so like formally compelling, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like the bits of this movie that work are just stunning, actually.
And I feel like that conveys what probably swords and shields battles are. It's just it's football. It's just two groups of people slamming into each other and something happens. Like the pure chaos of the battles really affected me.
Definitely helped that they had like I'm so used to a movie now, like even Lord of the Rings kind of started this trend, but like you've got like a whole bunch of CGI people building up, just all composited and fighting, and this is just like there's literally a couple hundred dudes here, and they all have balsa wood swords, and they are all just wailing on each other. Just a mass of bodies.
The way he pulled or like showed those off, so like it's down to me every time. It's like, okay, here's the sort of tight shot of 15 dudes in armor. No, here's 30 dudes in armor. Here's 50 dudes in armor. No, it's until the horizon.
Yeah. Like even
guys in outfits.
Even like without CG, you'd usually expect some kind of trickery. Like we've got 30 guys and we're carefully filming it to make it look like we have 100. But they went out of their way to go, hey, yeah, look, we have all of these people. Just the density of crowd shots too is something
especially
else.
From the beginning, where I really felt like we're trying to imply size. Like the Mongol horde is 5 people.
Yeah,
it's not a horde.
And Alexander's farm people are like it's like 8, and I'm like, okay, we're doing a lot of implication of size here, and then it just got progressively more and more and more.
Yeah, you get to Novgorod, and it's like, okay, that's a crowd of 50 people.
I think the opening is more of a like we're settling into. I mean, initially you're also looking at a bunch of bones.
Yeah,
because they talk about, oh yes, they repelled the Swedes, and you have a montage of, hey, check out all these bleached skulls. Hey, check out this horse rib cage. Hey, here's scattered armor and weapons everywhere that are like among all these rolling grass dunes, basically, and then we gradually settle in on the little village where our humble prince is fishing. So I think it's you're supposed to really fall in love with this big space and where all the foreigners have been killed. Be afraid, Hitler.
At the Mongol ambassador, and he was giving this borderline racist Asian caricature of a smile, and then like once the deal is off, he takes it away, and I was like trying to read into that. Is that like, oh yeah, the Russians like it when you smile big while talking to them? Like I was like trying to read so much into that, because there is subtlety in the performance. As soon as Alexander's like, nah, I'm staying here, he like loses his smile. It's like, okay.
Yeah,
Good luck when we come back later.
I think that was mostly just what it was he was, trying to be the happy ambassador and like, oh, You can come join us. It'll be totally awesome. It'll be great. We'll murder some dudes. It'll be great. And yeah, when Alex is like, nah, I'm good. Right away, he just drops that artifice of being an ambassador and like trying to convince this guy to do anything. He's like, all right, well then whatever, I'm out.
That since this movie is really like it is a propaganda piece, I was wondering if the bit where they talk about the Mongolian invasion was supposed to be sort of a metaphor for the Russo-Japanese War, and kind of going, hey, it might make more sense for us to fight Japan because we had a war with them like relatively recently, but and I know Mongolia is not Japan, but we're talking about a 1938 movie. It's shitty, but I'm going to assume they weren't making too many distinctions between different folks in Asia. This is like, it feels like it's referencing something, because a lot of bits in this movie feel like they're referencing things to construct like a propagandistic argument. And I was just wondering, like, am I completely off base here? Is that what it's referencing, or are they just, oh, this is just a historical thing that we're bringing up?
Why not both?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say, it seems like it's a bit of both.
Everything that like Nevsky did was in like the shadow of Mongolians taking over what might have been considered like Eastern Russia, whatever that meant at the time. And also it doesn't get a ton of like ink in the Vita that I read. But one of the things he was known for is literally telling, like negotiating with the heir of Genghis Khan that was lording over Russia at the time. I can't recall his actual name at the moment. Going on a diplomatic mission to say, hey, could you not conscript Russians to fight in the Horde? And getting that for at least up until he died.
Wow.
Didn't work out in the long term, but making sure Russians did not fight in the Golden Horde is something that he's known for historically. But it also has the like double effect, like the rhetorical effect of, yeah, they were a big deal, our enemy from the East.
Yeah.
But what about these people from the West? We should probably focus on them the most.
Let's move there and talk about super evil Catholic Germans.
Right?
Super duper.
I like, because I don't think this is an intentional reference, but I like that if you say, okay, we need to make the Catholic Germans cartoon supervillain bad guys, which, I mean, in a historical standpoint, that's not necessarily that weird, because everyone was a cartoon supervillain in the Middle Ages if you're a ruler. It was very, oh yeah, now this shit all looks like exactly like Warhammer's take on their fantasy version of this.
Also, just like literally putting swastikas on their bishop's hat.
Yeah, the swastika on the bishop's
Not
hat.
his mitre.
Yeah, on his mitre, yeah.
Like, I think that's one of those things that can be like a historical edge case, because before the Nazis used it, swastikas were like relatively widely used as a
but here
symbol.
it's very intentional.
But here, it is definitely because these guys represent the Nazis, in case that wasn't obvious.
In case that wasn't totally clear to everyone.
Also, hi kids, I'm not saying I approve of swastikas. I'm just saying, for a historical movie, you could, especially in 38, that could be a thing.
The
good old Emperor
helmets
Palpatine just sitting there.
Oh yeah, that dude. Yeah.
The Inquisitional Palpatine.
Yeah, exactly.
You could
Grand
just, like,
Inquisitor Palpatine. The helmets that they have the foot soldiers who are, hello Soviet Union, ultimately pardoned for their invasion crimes, because they're just the proletariat who were forced conscripts into doing crimes against the body of Mother Russia. Their helmets are based on, of course, now that I want to say it, I forgot the name, even though I recognize them on sight, I swear. Your
call is important to us.
Yes.
Please remain on the line.
Please remain on the line. They're basically sallets, which are 15th century, pretty common 15th century helms, but modified slightly to look like German helmets from, that era. They look stormtroopery. They
Yeah.
look like Wehrmacht. Not at all subtle stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Not subtle in the slightest. Like there's very little subtlety going on in the depiction of the German Catholics. Which and I think it is amazing how much the religion of the Germans is clearly present constantly, and the religion of the Russians is not.
Not at all.
Just not even there. There's a Orthodox cathedral in the background.
Real where's Waldo of finding the Orthodox priests in this movie.
Waldo's appear at the very end. You see a gaggle of Orthodox clergy holding icons and various staves and items of office that I sure can't identify. I grew up fundamentalist, and they're just sort of in the background and on the church steps in a couple places, like 2 shots in this state. And then as soon as Alexander mounts the steps to the church, they just clear out with all their shit.
They're just gone.
And he holds a secular court there.
That was maybe the one point of poor editing, because I had to watch that scene like 4 or 5 times to figure out what exactly happened. Because it felt very strange that Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine were dispatched with almost no fanfare. Like a close up of their faces, and then they're carted off.
I mean, I kind of got, I don't know, I kind of get the impression that whole scene, because of how they established how like the Germans treat their prisoners, to show that no, we are much more enlightened and much more benevolent. But the nobility, however, will have to face the wrath of the people. But we take into consideration the people and what level of war criminality they have done, because we are a noble people, as opposed to those awful
sacrificing Germans.
Yeah, see, we're part of it. We're part of a really a worldwide movement of Knights for Soap. We like to just
Knights for Soap, yeah.
Trade them for soap.
Which, to be fair, historically, Nazis in World War II, really horrible people. Yeah. But radical opinion there.
I trade any Nazi I know for a Bed Bath & Beyond.
Damn, if I could get a whole Bed Bath & Beyond for a Nazi, I would probably go to the trouble of capturing one.
Yeah.
Argentina, here I come.
Yeah, I was to say, off to South America we go.
We'll go build a little Nazi trap in Argentina and capture one so we can get a Bed Bath & Beyond.
In the luxury space communism of my future, everyone will have their own Bed Bath & Beyond.
Yeah, after he traded back our hostages for soap, which was just a strange. I mean, like, sorry not to over-explain the joke, but like that was such a weird detail of the movie. It was
so fucking weird when he said, "We'll exchange them." I was like, "For gold? For soap?"
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm figuring, like, we'll hold him hostage. We'll get some money or land for him or something. No, soap.
Maybe you watch this movie and you're hoping for an answer. You're not going to get it from us unless Shrug has one right now.
I don't like to make generalities about medieval Europe, especially when you start getting into too far east. Like I said, I don't fucking know much about that region at all. But the trend was, if you had a rich person, you capture the rich person and you ransom them, and so if you just kill them, you've wasted a perfectly good rich person. So maybe the soap thing, maybe the soap thing was like a signal of practicality. Like, I'm going to get a commodity that's usable by the people.
Yeah, we don't want your gold
instead of filthy gold.
Yeah, we don't want your capital here. We want a commodity. We want something that we can actually use.
I mean, all of those blinding white garments in the opening don't clean themselves.
Yeah, you make a good point.
It is time to raise the hoghorn and review Alexander Nevsky using our own custom review scoring metric, which I have decided is bizarre decorations for the tops of helmets. specifically hands, just a hand. How many hands on top of helmets?
We
would you
can't have the
rate this
rating
movie?
system be the Germans.
But it's the hand. The hand stuck out to me so much.
Oh my God, pedantry. This you would when you this in this extremely rigorous historical and realistic movie, those sorts of things that they had on their helmets, those are like parade helmet, joust helmet things. You wouldn't use those when you were fighting on a
Yeah.
fake lake. Realism. Also, when the dude noticeable mistakes, goofs, when the dude drags a dude off of a horse in battle, you can see that there's not a foot coming out of that fake male trousers. You can see it. You know it's a dummy. And then you know the horse is a dummy because it's not breathing. I pressed my nose against the screen. Anyway, please move on. Fake horse. Bad movie.
All
Yeah.
right, Fuji. I want you to defend the Nazi helmet.
The
That's
Nazi
the
helmet
rating
as the rating system. I'm going to defend it because it is the most. Okay, so like you said, they had the second director around to keep Eisenstein from getting too like abstract and weird, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, here's this clearly like important German dude, but he has a hand on his head, just in the background. We don't talk about it. It's just there, and the one guy we do sort of focus on just has these weird, like straight up pointy pieces of clearly balsa wood mounted to the side of his helmet. It's very weird, and I guess it was maybe just to make it so you could keep track of who some of the fucking faceless German assholes were, but made me think
So
of the
1 to 5 hat helmets. Is that our rating system?
hand helmets. I'm going to say hand
Hand
helmets.
helmets. Okay.
Yeah.
1 to 5 hand helmets. All right.
Hand
Well,
helmets.
I'm muttering to it, so I guess I'll lead us off. After watching Battleship Potemkin right before we started doing this podcast, I had some opinions about Sergei Eisenstein, and I'm glad to see that he improved after 15 years. Anything to be incendiary.
Rudy, he
But-
invented editing.
Yeah, he didn't invent editing. I guess that's cool. Doesn't mean it's good. Just be really incendiary about it.
Hot take, Rudy. Hot take. Rudy.
Sorry, I just had to.
But the film Alexander Nevsky, I'm going to do it to myself this time. I go to films to feel the character's emotional journey. And that means I have to believe that Alexander Nevsky is the man to lead and save the Russian people. And he is just presented too much as this static statue of this standing ovation of, and kind of really weird wooden acting every time it's his turn to perform, of like it, and it lights him beautifully because it's showing it has the pull of this one supposed to be a propaganda picture, but also it's supposed to be like this celebratory historical epic to announce like that the Russian people must stand against the coming tide of Nazi Germany. And I feel like it doesn't resolve either of those plot lines. On the other hand, it is a frequently beautiful film, and that the long battle scene is just this constant string of chaos. And though it is people with plywood weapons smacking each other, it feels like that's what actual combat is. I don't think it's a great film, but I think it is worth watching. So I'm going to give it 2.9 hat helmets. With one of the hands doesn't have its fingers. It's like the world's weirdest side thumb. Just like it's just got a thumb. It's sort of like, look at this guy on top of the helmet.
Two normal hand helmets and then one that's just the thumb.
It's worth watching, but I would not. None of it exactly pays off for me. What about you, Chris, since you wanted to jump in on my last 3 words?
Yeah, I did. Ha. I enjoyed it, but I did feel like you did, Rudy. I didn't have much emotional investment in Alexander himself for most of the movie. There was one scene in particular that I actually really liked him in, and that was when after he's kind of, turns down the Mongols. He kind of turns down getting involved even with the Russian stuff for a little bit, and then they send some people out to talk to him, and he's kind of like telling them like, I don't want to do that. I'm good. I'm just gonna be a fisher. And they say, like, as soon as they mention that Pskov, however you want to say it, Pskov, gets taken, like, he just has this look on his face of just like, well, back on my bullshit, and then he just like is in it. Then that part I was okay. That was the one scene where I was like, okay, I get him. He's like, that was like his breaking point. It's like, oh, they took this town. Well, then okay, shit, I got to do this. But then after that, yeah, you don't really get invested in it. I got more invested in Vasily and his bro, whose name I can't remember right off the top of my head right now, began with a G. Yeah, those two guys I got more invested in because at least they like sort of felt like characters that were being developed, whereas like Alexander sort of seems like portrayed as this saintly historical figure, not like in terms of like pious, but in terms of like unimpeachable. We can't make him look. We can't flesh him out too much. He's got to be this pure version of himself. That being said, I did enjoy the movie a lot in terms of watching it as Soviet propaganda. I thought that angle of it was a lot more interesting to me. And watching the religious aspect of it, the whole German Catholic in what theory would have been versus Eastern Orthodox, but because it's the Soviets, they don't have religion, so we just erased that, and it made it very strange and interesting. So I didn't enjoy the movie story for what is happening in the story as much as I enjoyed kind of what it was trying to portray as propaganda, and I thought that was really cool. Not to say obviously that I agree with the propaganda, but it was cool to like notice it and think about it as you're taking in the movie. But all that being said, like Rudy said, it's beautiful. There's certain shots of this movie that are just going to stick with me for quite a while. There's certain weirdnesses in this movie that are going to stick with me for quite a while. The aforementioned baby drops. But I don't necessarily know that I could tell people to watch it, but I will give it. I'm actually going to go with just a nice 3 hand helmets. All fingers, all still attached. No partial hands here. Just a full 3 hand helmets. So, Shrug, what do you think? This is being your choice. What do you think of Alexander Nevsky?
I forgot to do a joke that I was planning all along. I even wrote it down when I brought up Dmitry Vasilyev. He was there to rein in Eisenstein, much like Rudy is here to rein in the worst of my excesses. That's the no. I'd never seen this movie before. I really just wanted to break up what was becoming the monotony of List. It looked interesting. I wasn't completely aware of its sort of epochal status in film history. Had no idea that I would find the seed of several parts of John Milius's Conan the Barbarian in it. Didn't even realize that I would find extra reading on my shelf when I put it on there. And when I see Big Sky and a bunch of horses with dudes in probably foam and or cardboard Crusader helmets thundering towards the camera beneath that giant sky, dwarfed by the might of the motherland or whatever. I even though it probably is a moment of formalism that they didn't catch, even though I don't really have any feeling for most of the characters, even though they all feel like chess pieces that are being moved around in order to reinforce the Soviet Union's never completely official anti-religious policies. I felt something. And I'm kind of a robot person, so big landscape is good enough for me. There was also the concurrent deal of this is literally about a saint, and how secular will they make it? Well, almost entirely. And it was pretty fascinating to see them reify this folk character into like an icon of purely secular, purely I guess you could say ethnic, because pan-Russia, pan-Soviet sort of folk hero status. And that was probably the most actively interesting part for me, when I wasn't just being overwhelmed by the big landscapes on my not so big computer monitor. I'm still trying to figure out which Kurosawa movie ripped off the score of this thing. Maybe I never will. I forgot to talk about Hitler, Karl May, and the Lebensraum. It's probably for the best. I give this movie 3.69 helmets with hands.
I did not fully know what to expect when going into a movie from 1938, but as I had been informed by my college classes, this Sergei Eisenstein dude's kind of important to filmmaking, and was pretty innovative there. Yeah, he was kind of innovative. That's Sergei Eisenstein. So I was very intrigued to watch it, especially because when I had seen examples of his work in the past, I was more like it was a lot more abstracted. It was a lot more, hey, here's some weird artistic, free association visual jazz kind of thing going on. But this one, was much more conventional. But it was also, I don't know, for a conventional movie, it still felt like but strangely modern periodically. Like that was the oddest thing about it, was that it felt contemporary, like a what we would think of as a modern film intermittently. Ultimately, culminate and even had some bits where it goes between, hey, here's a big raid with, as Rudy put it, clown music. Showing our heroes.
Goddamn clown music! I felt bad. I did that whole review and didn't talk about.
Well, I'm bringing it up now.
Music clown.
Just for you, Rudy.
Thanks,
clown
friend.
music.
Thanks, friend.
But other times it would be like, hi, we're going to do a Russian movie where we just sort of acknowledge everybody's fucking dead. They're all fucking dead. They're dead. They're dead. They're motherfucking dead. And those scenes were kind of beautiful and kind of gorgeous. And that's the thing. Like, even as rough as this could be, because like the action scenes like go on a really long time, the bits where it just like wanted to convey like a visual idea just punch you in the face. And there are so many shots in this movie that are just gorgeous, just absolutely gorgeous. And then Alexander Nevsky turns to the camera and tells you that you should do your part for the Soviet Union and fight those Germans. But that's kind of the nature of art in the Soviet Union, especially at the kind of budget that we're dealing with here. This almost feels beyond like or dislike for me as a film, because even though it's like, well, yeah, this is rough, and I've definitely seen movies that like were better, it also, like, due to when it's from, I found myself going, whoa, they pulled that off more than I went, oh yeah, I guess this is a movie from 1938. And that was really impressive to me. I'm going to give it 4 hand helmets because I think that, like, this is probably a good film movie class for you, you know? Like, this is the kind of thing you'd hope to see in a film class movie. Like, not necessarily something that you'd seek out yourself, but, like, you'd actually have something to chew over and talk about after you watched it. If you weren't just being a smartass and saying it wasn't, I don't know, The Matrix or Blade Runner. I'm not using real world examples here. Why would you say I'm using a real world example from my life?
Well, I'm hoping with War Movies that we are building our own film class, that we are making that like, you can take this instead of you can listen to 50 episodes of War Movies and consider yourself you've taken a bachelor's in cinema.
Never watch the movies, though. I don't.
Only use our
anyway.
takes.
Yeah.
4 hand helmets. Tigress gives it 1 film, gives it 1 thumb, kind of a ways up.
Shrug doesn't watch the films, but Shrug, did you find a guy? Did you see a guy when you were watching the film?
You could say that I vacillated a bit. Am I setting up a pun? I'm setting up a pun. I vacillated a bit, but I finally landed on Vasily. I like his mittens.
Yeah, they're solid.
He's presented. He looks like an Oblivion NPC. He's wearing what I can only assume, when not in grayscale, is an extremely loud, like puffy floral tunic. When we meet him, he's vying for the hand of a lady with his best friend. He really doesn't want to be the anvil to Alexander's hammer and anvil strategy, the same way that you win every battle in any of the Total War games. Also, the secret to Alexander the Great's victories.
Whoa.
This has no significance at all. Yeah, he comes across as a sort of an idiot fop at first, and maybe he's a coward and he's wearing mittens on top of with his armor, and he's really silly. And then he just keeps going. He proves himself. You know, I don't actually attach any kind of personal value to manful battle, whatever. But in the world of the film, he proves himself, and he realizes that it's okay to wear mittens when you're hacking apart Nazis with swords. And also, I would rather hook my dying friend up with the girl we were fighting over, and woo the lady that put on armor and killed people with me.
To be fair,
You know?
they
do look exactly the same. And he probably didn't actually know the person that he was trying to court very well. So,
and it's awesome because it means Vasily ends up with Vasilia.
Vasily, yeah,
which is
he's basically an honest, really. Yeah, I'm going to marry myself. Another person that was kind of hesitant because she's with the baggage train most of the time, but ultimately ends up killing a bunch of pseudo Nazis. So
yeah.
I like this locus of masturbatory energy. Vasily's my guy.
That leads directly into my guy, who is
Oh, no.
Vasily's mom.
Ah!
Damn.
Oh, Vasily's mom rules.
Yes.
I think
Oh
we've
my
all
God.
we've all had a good rewarding day. We've all had just a hell of a day, gone through a lot of crap. You're finally decompressing, and then a dear loved one, someone that you treasure more than anything, just gets on your case about something.
On your
You're like,
shit.
I cannot deal with this. What? After my long day, now you get on my case about this? Come on.
You do the cool thing, and you're like, well, you do this lady that I want to fuck is the most courageous, and then my friend's the second. So that other lady that has really weird standards for who she'll has a really weird gating system. I'll marry him. And my mom just like, couldn't you at least be the best at first in battle? I wasn't the
on.
last.
Yeah.
Which might
where's
be
your
a kind of
Chivo
a subtle Soviet thing, too.
I'm
Where's
still
your
alive,
Chivo
Mom. What
points?
the hell?
Yeah.
Where's your
I dragged the
Chivo
mannequin
points?
off of a horse. And then I knocked over the mannequin horse. Get off
Then I
my
hit a
case.
horse for a little bit.
Back up off me, Mom. Come on.
You weren't out there. The city still stands. Come on, Mom.
Also, my
And you
best
know, there's
friend just
and
died.
you know, there's no way to have that argument. You can't engage with it at all. You just have to take these insults and let them burn at you more than any of the achievements of the day will raise you. Like your whole day is now dealing with your mom being really snippy to you.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
next week he's gonna wake up sore. And it's not gonna be sore muscles it's gonna be sore burn just because his mom was sassed him so bad.
It goes to his mother going, his friend fought more valiantly than him, and so did a girl.
No!
Chris, who is your guy?
My guy was Domash, because Domash was great because the first scene Domash shows up in is when they're like, oh, the Germans are coming, we got to get an army together, we got to lead an army. And I guess it's probably like the mayor of the town. I didn't really know who the guy was, but he's like, yeah, we'll have Domash do it. He'll lead the army. And he pulls Domash up on stage to kind of talk to the crowd. And right away, Domash is like, no, we're going to get Alexander. I'm not doing this. Nope. We need Alexander better than me. I'm not doing it. Nope. And then Domash just kind of disappears, but I really love until later he comes back. But I really love that like, you know, he gets built up by this, you know, there's kind of like a hype man pulling him on stage. And then he just goes, nah, not me. And then later on, Domash does go out and fight. And Domash totally gets killed in the battle. And the last we see of Domash is he is one of the corpses in the parade of named characters coming back from the battle that get to go into town first on their little flower carts. It's like, oh, Domash, yeah, you probably shouldn't have been in charge, dude. Good call. All right. So I appreciated Domash.
He got cut off by an advanced army.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was in the advanced army. Oh yeah. He led the little advance force that just got obliterated. And then, yeah, he's like, you know, all right, Domash. Good for you, bud.
I thought you were going to talk about his giant Kingdom Hearts overjacket.
Oh, well, there was that. Yeah, actually, I forgot. His costume is almost as weird as the probably incredibly bright floral print that Vasily was wearing. Yeah, you're right. He does have a ridiculously oversized jacket on. Anyhow, yeah, I like Domash.
That's like the one time I've seen that, and that looks cool as hell.
Yeah.
The giant overjacket that just on his shoulders, but also he kind of has his hands through the sleeves sometimes.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, it's like the sleeves have like a hole in the side of them that he can like put his hand through the side of the sleeves to come out. Yeah, I don't know anything about medieval, you know, Russian fashion, so I'm not gonna, you know, comment on the historical inaccuracy or inaccuracy or what the hell is supposed to be going on there. But Domash,
Chris,
and his honesty is great.
I could see you in an oversized shoulder jacket. I could see you.
All right.
My guy, because we kind of talked about her, and I like the old dude. I like the old dude who made Too Short Mail. I like that he keeps popping up and he says little turns of phrases, which I think may be traditional Russian turns of phrases, but I don't know, about birds and how a quail is, after all, still a bird. And then he gets fucking stabbed in the neck after he says a fun one-liner. It's like the opposite of like... It's like the opposite of what you would expect to happen. It's like, hey, this guy, you know, he really... You know, you thought this dude was maybe gonna die. He's just some old guy with some shitty chainmail he made himself. He made it. He's gonna capture the big leader guy. Oops, no. He's dead right after saying a seemingly clever one-liner.
Is he the same guy that tells the weird story about the...
yes, about the rap.
Yeah.
Yes.
The inappropriate
weird,
story.
The extremely
problematic fave.
Yeah, problematic.
I guess that's true. That he does say that. But I remember him. Him very clearly. Yes, he does tell a very problematic joke at one point.
He does. He also sets up the riddle of
featuring
steel.
non-consensual conduct between woodland animals. Which I
He's
just
like
watched. It's like,
our-
what the fuck was that scene about? What the fuck was that scene about?
Yeah.
Like I
that
got
scene
why
is like,
I got why there was the like I did go, holy fuck, they killed a kid, but I got like narratively why that happened in the movie. I don't know, because I was like, Nevsky's gonna say something about it, and Nevsky's just like,
yeah.
yeah, like he doesn't really approve of it or disapprove of it. He's just like, well, okay,
yes, the proletariat and their body jokes.
body jokes about wow.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna describe the joke. It's sketch and very weird. It's very weird. But he also said fun things about birds, and that's what I think of him as. And
oh yeah, no,
Killed a lot of knights.
he was like a
I
problematic
took the-
uncle. Like, he's cool, but you're also like, bro.
took his jokes as like maybe he's misquoting idioms. I thought
Oh,
like
that
maybe the play was that like that he was misremembering idioms because he's just a big weirdo.
Big weirdo who sets up the riddle of steel.
well, yeah. I mean, your weird uncle would definitely be a fan of Conan the Barbarian, so that checks out.
Yep. Hey, I'm right here.
Will our next film be Conan the Barbarian? Only one of us hastily trying to find a D20 can tell.
I have one.
No
Oh.
Should I go for it? Should I go?
I'm ready. I'm ready to find out what's next. So the way we do it here is we each have a small list that we can change at any time of 5 movies each. Shrug had last choice. If we get 3 shrugs in a row, maybe we'll do something different. But as it is, we're gonna roll a d20 and see which of our 5 choices, which we can switch anytime, and will be for our personal use. Oh, I just saw what Shrug added, and I'm very excited if that's the next film. Let's see what happens.
I can't fucking believe I got Shrug again.
What?
Oh,
What was it? What is it?
It would be the Battle of Algiers.
yeah, cool.
All right.
That's a 2 shrugger. All right, the Battle of Algiers. Anyone want to pull up a short plot synopsis for the folks?
Paratrooper Commander Colonel Mathieu, a former French resistance fighter during World War II, is sent to 1950s Algeria to reinforce efforts to squelch the uprisings of the Algerian War. There he faces Ali Lapointe, a former petty criminal who, as the leader of the Algerian Front de Libération Nationale, directs terror strategies against the colonial French government occupation. As each side resorts to ever-increasing brutality, no violent act is too unthinkable. Colonialism
Yeah.
committed by the French.
I keep looking at this at the local Japanese rental store, and I have not touched it because I'd be watching a French film with Japanese subtitles.
See, Rudy,
That's
you
all
gotta...
about subterfuge, and I just feel like I was be a little bit out of my depth. But maybe now I'm gonna be like, yeah, I kind of know what happened in this film.
Just sort of transcribing the Battle of Algiers for Rudy.
But I know this has a beautiful Criterion edition, so I'm excited. This has been on my radar.
Yeah.
I watched it when I was probably 16 and only remember stylistic details. So. Speaking of saints and things that are in French, go to Nub.zone, where a total stranger has translated a game that I wrote about canonizing an animal saint into French. It's there if you want to play it in French.
I would if I had any friends.
Mm.
In person.
Aww.
I got
No, we know you don't pick one of us as
yeah,
friends. It's fine.
we got friends.
Okay.
I have friends online. If you'd like to be our friend, remember you can just send $50 to hingeproms@gmail.com. And once we get 10 students, we will record a 6-hour podcast explaining every single joke in Hot Shots.
Every
single joke in Hot
one.
Shots.
Even the ones we don't
Everyone.
understand.
If we miss one, we'll record later addendums for the ones we missed.
You will not get your money back.
No.
Your money will never come back, but your knowledge of Hot Shots humor will.
We'll hate this. I'll hate this more than everyone else. But we'll do it for science.
But for me being Rudy, for that being Chris, for Tigress, and also, maybe, just maybe, Shrug climbing out of the bottom of a fake horse. This has been Hinge Problems War Movies, and shoot the hinges.
Totally scarring war